You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up.
You got to pump it up.
Welcome back, Chris.
It's B10 Media Days week. It's getting close, man.
You know, it feels like we haven't done a show in like a whole 2 weeks or something like that. Time just flies by.
Yeah, it does fly by, especially when you're old as shit. Well, you can't relate to that, Trent, but I certainly can. Pump it up. Get ready to go. CJ says new phone. Who dis? Yes, Trent, I agree. It feels like it's been a long time since we went live. And I feel like it's because it has been a long time since we went live. It's been 2 weeks. We didn't go live last week because Trent was like, you know what? I can't do the show. I just downloaded College Football 25. I got to spend my whole existence playing that game. And I was like, fine, Trent, whatever you want to do. If you want to spend your life playing video games, go ahead and do it. So we canceled the show last week. But look, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we have to talk about it a little bit.
Like every week, like the previous 5 weeks before then, Chris is like, man, I don't know if we should do one or not. Like, I'm just not prepared for this stuff. And I'm like, Chris, come on, let's do it. And last week he was like, no, we're not doing one.
This is becoming my favorite rivalry on the show here. Matt Kirby versus Trent. Matt Kirby from the Facebook page says Trent is a problem. Look, this battle is going to be one that's ongoing for the season, and I'm here for it. Appreciate you, Matt, as always. Bobby back in the comments. CJ here. I mean, you guys are, you guys are a big part of the reason why we're able to do this. But I did want to talk about the college football game. I asked you this, Trent. How many hours do you think you've logged? Because every time I've talked to you since, you were either getting ready to play or you were in the middle of playing. Since College Football 25 came out, how many hours would you say you've logged playing that video game?
Well, I got the early access, so I got started on last Monday, I think. I've probably played at least 2 hours every day, if not more. But hey, I have not played more than you have in one single day. So I don't even know if we're at the same level or not. And you just got access to it a couple of days ago.
No, I was one of the losers. I did not purchase the early access. And so for a week, I had to watch everybody else have a bunch of fun with it. And then I think I downloaded it on Friday, maybe. I can't remember which day it was, but I'm going to share a story. I'm not proud of it, but this is what happened. So I think I downloaded it at maybe like 5 o'clock on Friday. And I ended up playing the game for approximately 13 hours straight. And I say that, I'm not joking. I played it for 13 hours straight. And this was like throwback, old school, binging on a video game. I kicked my son out of his bedroom because that's where the PlayStation was. I was, look, get the hell out. This is mine now. I've downloaded the game. This is why I bought this system in the first place. Started to play it, kind of got into it, created the Road to Glory mode. And then I looked out the window and noticed that the sun was coming up. It was daylight again. I had played all through the night. My wife walked into my son's bedroom. She thought I woke up early to play the video game. She's like, do you want me to make you some coffee or whatever? And I was like, no, I'm getting ready to go to bed soon. She's like, you've been up this whole time playing video games? Yes, I was up the whole time. I played College Football 25 for 13 hours straight from 5 p.m. to a little after 5 a.m. I don't know. Is that something to be proud of? Is that something to be embarrassed of? I take a lot of pride in that.
There was one night since I've started playing it, I was up until midnight playing, and I felt more tired than I ever have been because I'm usually in bed by like 10:30, 11. I could not imagine staying up until 5 a.m. playing a video game. Chris even published a story like at 4 o'clock in the morning. I wake up like at 6:30 that next day. I'm like, why is Chris up at 4:30 in the morning? Usually he's in bed around the time I go to bed. I'm like, what's going on here?
Your boy was 11 hours deep in playing a video game at that point. I'm like, I got to get some work done around here. But I mean, listen, I will say this, and Trent, you and I talked about this when you asked me, you were like, hey, what's your experience like with the video game? And there's some things that I like about it. There's no question that this was one of the most hyped video games to come out in a very, very long time. Maybe I would argue the most hyped video game of all time. Did it live up to the hype? Yeah. Trent, let me ask you, do you think, I mean, you followed this pretty closely, in your assessment, has the video game lived up to the hype?
I've got to say yes, because I've been dying for another college football game.
Yeah.
Like that was always my favorite game series. Every year I was looking forward to July, the end of July, college football came out, and we haven't had it since NCAA 14. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things you'd like to change on it, but overall, I think it's lived up to the hype for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the comments can relate. I mean, they understand. You know, you buy your son a PS5 for Christmas. Yeah, it's his gift, but we know whose gift it's really for. Like when I bought my son the PS5 for Christmas, I knew it was really going to be for me in anticipation of this game coming out, and that's exactly what happened. But Trent, you and I were talking about this on the phone, and look, we might be hemorrhaging viewers right now from people who don't give a shit about video games. Stay with me here, because I promise I'm going to try to make this relevant to what's going on in college football. When we talked about this on the phone the other day, I honestly feel like, and I said this to you, Trent, I feel like if you want a good understanding of what it's like to be a collegiate athlete in today's college football, get EA Sports College Football 25 and go into Road to Glory mode and just try to experience what that's like. That's the mode that I was playing in. And as I was playing it, it felt like it was too much, like it was overdone. Like you get texts from your academic advisors making sure you're doing well in school, and you're getting texts from people who are like offering you NIL deals, and you've got to show up to practice, and you've got to take care of your body, and you've got to do all these different things. And then it dawned on me, I'm like, holy shit, like it seems like the game is overdoing it. But the reality is this is what these college athletes are dealing with every single day. People texting them, people wanting them to go here. There's an NIL event over here. You've got to go to practice. You've got to do your studies. And to me, like, just as like a 40-year-old guy who was playing a video game in his son's room, I'm like, this is too much. I can't deal with it. I can't handle it. I think I'm failing in class. But it's incredible. Just gives you a little bit of insight into what these guys really have to deal with. And Trent, I don't know if that was your experience in it, because I think that you play a bit of a different mode, but all the things that are thrown at you in this game are all the things that are being thrown at student athletes in real life. And it felt a little bit overwhelming. And so I'm constantly amazed with how these guys are able to juggle and balance all the things that are coming at them, because college football is different in today's era. And certainly when you play this game, you get a bit of insight into that.
Yeah, I've played one full season of the Road to Glory. And by the way, all the Northwestern Wildcats offense needed was Trent Knoop. I mean, they're prolific, man. I mean, they won the Big Ten, made it to the college football playoff, lost in the semifinals against Ohio State, unfortunately. And then I hit the road. Like, if they can't beat Ohio State, I'm gone. Transferred to Florida State. So now I'm the starting quarterback at Florida State. But you're right. Like it kind of makes you think about what these student athletes are actually doing. Like you have to keep up on your grades or you're going to get benched. Like you said, the NIL deals come in at you. You have all kinds of different things, situations that you have to monitor.
Decide whether or not you want to go to parties or stay home and study. You got to decide whether or not you want to steal your tight end's girlfriend. I mean, this game goes like to levels I wouldn't have expected it to go to. So yeah, if you want a good insight into what it's like to be a collegiate athlete in today's college football world, go ahead and get that game and play Road to Glory. And everything that you experience there is what those guys are experiencing in real life. But damn, it feels good to have that game back. Like that was a long hiatus without having that as part of our experience, and to be able to play that game. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why I played it for 13 hours straight, because I've been waiting 10 damn years for it to come out. So it's here, it's released. I would encourage everybody to go out and purchase it, if for no other reason than they put Donovan Edwards on the cover, which again, a Michigan Wolverine on the cover, that's pretty much commonplace for the EA video game. Let's move off of, I mean, Jesus Christ, what are we, a bunch of gamer nerds around here?
I could probably talk about this game for
right now.
What's that?
I could probably talk about this game for another 45 minutes, and I would be perfectly happy in life.
No, we got to move off of the video game stuff because we do have to get to some more important topics, Trent. And this is something that, we saw the news recently, and I feel like it's got to be talked about on the show. I'm talking, of course, about politics and what's going on with no, I'm kidding. It's the Connor Stalions news. We have been waiting to hear from this guy. He's been like this enigma. He hasn't really said anything since the whole sign stealing scandal broke loose. It obviously was the biggest story in college football all of last season. We did see some cameo appearances from Connor Stalions as part of the Barstool Network. Like Dave Portnoy always had Stalions around, like, wearing sunglasses and a hat, grabbing pizzas from various places and just doing weird shit. But finally, in the month of August, we're going to get to hear from the man, the myth, the legend, Connor Stalions, as part of a Netflix documentary. I knew this documentary was coming out for a little while because they wanted to use some of my photography for it. I had to shut that down. I said, in no way am I going to take part in a Connor Stalions documentary. But I am curious. I saw the reaction. I put out the article on the Sports Illustrated site. And Connor Stalions is very, very polarizing, I feel like, within the Michigan football fan base. There are some that view him as a Michigan legend, and there are other people within this fan base that are like, keep this guy away. I don't want to hear a damn thing from what he has to say. So maybe let's start there. Trent, the documentary's coming out. What's your level of excitement to hear from this guy? And overall, what is your view of who Connor Stalions is at this point?
I mean, as a viewer, I'm extremely excited for this. I love sports. So like any of these sports documentaries that come out, I'm usually ready to watch it. Obviously, with it being about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh and Connor Stalions, I have even more of that want to watch it. While I'm excited, I don't think it's going to tell us anything that we probably didn't really already know. Like, I don't think there's going to be any groundbreaking information that comes out of it. I definitely don't think Connor Stalions is going to paint Michigan in a bad light whatsoever. I mean, the dude still loves Michigan. I'm sure he would go back on staff if they offered him a staff job. He loves Michigan. He loves Jim Harbaugh. I don't think he's going to say or do anything that paints Jim Harbaugh in a negative light. Of course, your outside people, your Ohio State fans, your Michigan State fans, people that don't like Jim Harbaugh, they're gonna watch it and take anything and everything and spin it their direction. But I mean, just watching it, I don't think it's going to be anything just groundbreaking that we didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the most likely scenario, even though I would hate for it to be that, because I want to hear from this guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think of a way to say this that's fair. When the whole thing broke, my mind immediately went to, I was angry. I was pissed off at Connor Stalions because I felt like what he was doing and what he had done was unnecessary to Michigan's success. And I was really pissed off that this story was sucking up all the oxygen from what was an incredible season for this program. And we see it still to this day that people view Michigan's national championship. Now, granted, most of the people that view it that way are shitheads, and it doesn't really matter what their opinion is anyway. But there is still this lingering issue hanging over Michigan's 2023 national championship season. And this guy is at the heart of that issue. And I don't know if he's been vilified in a way that's unfair. I don't know if it's justified. I don't really know how to view Connor Stalions. And I think a lot of that is because we simply haven't heard from him. We haven't heard what his side of the story is. And so you're right. I don't think there's going to be a situation where he's going to throw Michigan under the bus or he's going to speak negatively about the football program, because he is a fan of the program. Like, that's how he started out, right? He was a Michigan football fan. I don't think he's going to do anything to try to hurt the program. But I do think if you are Connor Stalions and you saw what the coverage was and how people are, talking about you and describing you, I would think there's a big part of you that wants to come out and set the record straight. And I saw it in the comments, and a lot of people were saying like, he just wants to get his payday. He wants to profit from this. Look, if you're out there and your name became as talked about as Connor Stalions, and you had all of these people and these outlets assuming and saying different things about you, I would think you would want to come out in the biggest way possible and say, look, you're going to hear from me now. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen with that Netflix documentary. So I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. Do you think we're going to hear anything about the Central Michigan thing?
I bet that's brought up. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because that ended up being a big deal. Like, after it was all said and done, people going back to that Central Michigan sideline, viewing in. You literally see Connor Stalions right there on the sideline. And of course, the Netflix people are going to be like, so why were you on Central Michigan sideline watching Michigan State? And then, Connor Stalions probably has in his own head, he has a perfectly reasonable explanation for everything that he did. Whether it's reasonable or not, it's beside the point. But to him, everything that he did probably makes sense to him. And it's going to be interesting to see why he did what he did.
Yeah, I mean, he's just this mysterious figure now. Like I remember like there, I had very surface level communication with him and exchanging messages before this even took place. And I remember like I'd be down on the field and I'd see him walk by, like the coaches like to walk laps around the stadium when they first get there and just sort of take in the environment. I'd see him walk by, just very friendly, like hello sort of thing. Never would have imagined that he would be the guy who would become the centerpiece of just this. I say it's the biggest sports story in 2023. This might be one of the biggest sports stories of all time. I mean, this was like breaking news on ESPN and Pete Thamel was camped out everywhere. And it just like, it was the topic of the 2023 season. So to be able to hear him speak, I'm eager to hear it. Can't wait for the Netflix documentary to come out. I did see that people said, the timing of this is interesting because it is like 1 or 2 days before Michigan's first game is set to kick off. Do you make anything of that? The fact that do you think it's a coincidence or do you think this is by design that 2 days later Michigan's scheduled to kick off their season?
Oh, it's 100% by design. I mean, everything that happened going back to Connor Stalions and the whole situation, it seemed like everything that happened negatively affected Michigan. While I don't think this is going to negatively affect Michigan, I still think it's by design that they're releasing this right before Michigan season starts.
Yeah, seems way too much of a coincidence for it to be, nothing more than that. I think that there is some method to the madness here. And I know I've had Scott's question up on the screen for a while now, but I do want to ask, I mean, we know how the University of Michigan is, right? They have a lot of control over things that are said and done. And I mean, we know it as people that are credentialed members of the media, like there's very strict rules that are in place in terms of things you can do, things you can't do, things you can say, things you can't say, and just how Michigan operates. I would find it hard to believe that the folks at Michigan aren't aware that this was taking place and that Connor was set to do this interview. But I do think Scott brings up an interesting question. The NCAA, as far as we know, is still in the process of this investigation. Are there any concerns that something he says or something that is done throughout the course of this documentary could have an impact on the program moving forward? Is there any part of you that feels that concern?
I mean, is it possible? Absolutely. You don't know what he's going to say, but I've got to believe, going back to what I was saying, that he loves Michigan, loves Jim Harbaugh, probably loves Sharon Moore. I don't think that he's going to do anything that's going to affect Michigan now. I'm sure that he's had communication with Jim Harbaugh and whoever else around Michigan right now. Hey, do you guys care that I do this? Like, I'm getting offered this position. Do you care if I go on Netflix?
You think he asked permission?
I do. I think that he talked to Michigan. Somebody within the program was like, do you guys care that I do this? I'm not going to do anything that's going to negatively affect you guys, but Netflix wants to have me on. I'm going to tell my side of the story. And I fully believe, I fully believe that he asked some sort of permission, talked to them about doing it, and that they're on the, it's a green light. He can go do it.
Look, man, I get that there's people that have been doing this a lot longer than I have. I'm going into my 4th year covering the program, but I got to say, I find it very hard to believe that anybody associated with the University of Michigan would greenlight this. Just based on what my experience is and how tightly they like to keep things to the chest. They don't want to do anything that's going to rock the boat. Hell, you can't even go in and watch a spring practice. Like, the media cannot go in. If you look at what happens down in Columbus, like, they'll invite media members to go in and film certain things and experience and interviews. Michigan's having none of that. And I've told you this before. I view like Schembechler Hall is like the chocolate factory in the Willy Wonka movie. Like, nobody ever goes in, nobody ever comes out. Like, the gates are usually locked, and it's hard to get a behind the scenes look there. I just find it very hard to believe that anybody would okay this from Michigan's side. I think ultimately We're still waiting to hear from the NCAA. Not really sure how this is all going to shake out. I just think that they wouldn't encourage this type of thing to be done. But that's a question that I wonder is going to be addressed. Does Michigan know that he's doing this? Did Michigan greenlight it? And if Michigan did, I think that says even more about what the situation is and kind of how it played out in the media. Because if Michigan's supportive of Connor Stalions speaking out, to me, that suggests that they're not all that concerned and worried about what's going to come from the NCAA. But Krista here from the Facebook page, interesting point that she brings up. She says, how can anyone have faith that he wouldn't hurt the program when he already made such a bad decision? Nothing he says can do anything but hurt the program from this point. Fair statement from Krista there. How do you feel about that?
I mean, yeah, once again, you don't know what he's going to say. And again, it's very possible that he could say the wrong thing, but I'm just taking my belief in what I've heard, and I don't know Connor Stalions, but what I've heard and think I know about Connor Stalions, that he is a super fan, loves the program, wanted to work for Michigan for the longest time, finally got a job there. I just don't think that he's going to do or say anything that we don't already know that's going to negatively hurt the program.
Yeah, and Krista, I think it's a fair point that you bring up, but there's also a part of me that's like, I don't know, did Connor Stalions hurt the program? Or did other bitter coaches and people in the media do far more damage to what was happening with Michigan than anything Connor Stalions did? How prevalent is that type of activity in college football? Maybe Connor Stalions has better insight into that, certainly than we do, but then most people have, right? Like, we know that people gather intel on other teams, and that, you know, college football, there's things that have been happening for a while. And so I'm with Krista on this, that like I view Connor Stalions as somebody who hurt the program, but maybe he's got a different take. I'm sure he's got a different take on it. And maybe the insight he can provide in this documentary will open the eyes to people that, hey, this is not a thing that was limited to me. Like, this is a thing that happens in college football. It just so happens that the target got placed on me for some reason. Like, I feel like that's pretty much where this documentary is going to go.
Yeah. And I think it's going to probably show that, I don't know if it's going to be proof, but I think it's going to kind of show something that we all already knew, that all these teams have somebody, maybe not to the extreme that Connor Stalions went, but they all have somebody that does what Connor Stalions did. They go around, again, maybe not to the extent that he did, but they go around finding out what the signals are. Like, we already know this happens. And I think it's going to be just further proof that it happens in NCAA football.
Yeah, Bernard, I think that's how you say it from the Facebook page, says no fuggin' way, Fuggin. No way he received permission from UM. I absolutely believe that. I just, you know, it just doesn't seem like the Michigan thing to do, but I think a lot of people are in agreement here. I don't know that a lot of, you know, we're going to have anything explosive come from it. I think that the interest is, let's just hear what the guy has to say. His name was thrown around so much, and he's obviously at the heart of this scandal. It is a little bit weird to me that the investigation is still ongoing and we're going to hear something from him. But again, I think that's what it's going to be. He's going to give better insight into who he was, what his role was, and sort of why he did what he did, and kind of how he views his role as part of the Michigan football program. But certainly when, you know, like I said, I knew that this documentary was coming. I didn't know it was going to come this quickly. Like, I knew it was coming soon. I didn't know it was going to come at the end of August, right before Michigan season kicks off. But it's safe to say that whether you're a Michigan fan, a Michigan hater, just, you know, somebody who enjoys sports altogether, I've got a hunch that this is going to be a highly, highly watched Netflix documentary that's coming out. So again, what's the date on that? August 29th, I think. August 29th, the documentary comes out again shortly before Michigan's football season. And then I'm sure we'll hop on and we might hop on and go live the second that documentary comes out. Once we get
watch it together.
Oh my God. Should we hold a viewing party? Oh, wait a minute. All right. We're going to have to talk about this live or offline. We'll talk about this. We might just do a Winged Helmet viewing party and we'll all watch it together. You know, we'll give our live commentary like as we're watching it on what's happening.
We can pause it every 10 minutes and give a little our input as to what we heard.
Goodness. A watch party. Yeah, CJ. I mean, we might have to take it there. Winged Helmet watch party. We'll all watch the Connor Stalions documentary together. We'll all digest it together. That actually sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. I think we might have to do that.
See, Matt Kirby, I have some things I provide to the group. I came up with that viewing
some
party all by
value.
myself.
Trent's got some value that he can provide. Should we move on to another topic? Anything else we want to address on this Connor Stalions thing? John White says he's seeing August 27th. That sounds about right. Let me just check real quick. I mean, I put the article out. I should know when the damn documentary's coming out. Let's see here. August 27th. That's correct.
Okay.
So, I mean, when is August 27th? What day is that? August 27th. Tuesday, August 27th. That sounds like a good time to do a live watch party. So, Trent, we'll try to figure that out and see if we can work it into the schedule. But again, man, this is going to be, people have been waiting to hear from this man. And I think, regardless of what gets revealed, I'm going to be excited to hear what he has to say. And not a chance Michigan gave him the green light to do it. Let's move on to another topic, something that I talked to you about that I definitely wanted to address on the show. Hell, Trent, it's your fault it became such a topic because you were the one that put out the article. Now, I've seen it in response to some of the articles I've put out on this particular topic, but I'm a little bit disappointed in the Michigan football fan base. And I say that not gladly, but there are some of you out there that whenever it comes to the topic of Alex Orji, you guys some of you have just decided that this guy is not the guy, that this guy cannot be the type of quarterback Michigan needs to be successful. Trent, you put out an article. What was the title of that article? You were talking about his leadership or something like that. Do you remember what it was? I'm
trying to pull it up right now, but it was something like Alex Orji's leadership is something about like the quarterback Michigan needs in 2024.
Yeah. And look, the response to that, at least on social media, let me just see. I'm just going to pull up something.
The title was Alex Orji is becoming the leader Michigan needs at quarterback in 2024.
Okay, so Alex Orji is becoming the leader that Michigan needs at quarterback in 2024. That to me does not sound like a controversial statement, doesn't sound like a controversial topic, but there are some fans that genuinely took issue with that article. And to be quite honest, they take issue with the Alex Orji coverage overall. I'm going to read one of the comments on the Facebook page. I'm not going to put it up on the screen. I'm not going to do that or give a name. But here was one of the comments you received to that article. And I quote, "The media has been force-feeding us the Orji hype since McCarthy declared for the NFL. He hasn't shown anything other than inside of practices that the public doesn't see. Let the QB battle work itself out without pushing one guy over the other. Play the best guy without bias. I do know that he better learn how to pass better. Denard was a great running QB. I haven't seen anything like that from Orji." Let me just read another. Somebody said, "Genuine question. How does this show that he's emerged as a leader in the quarterback battle? Because he answered some questions about what he's working on. I read the entire thing and I never saw where he's quote unquote emerged as the clear leader. Just seems like the media has been force feeding Alex Orji the entire offseason. Just let the best man win the job, whoever it is, and report on it then." Couple things I want to say. Number one, nobody is force feeding you anything. You do understand that when you log on and you get online and you search the internet, you are choosing what to read and what to see and what your experience is like. I'm not force feeding you anything Alex Orji related. Trent's not force feeding you anything Alex Orji related, but Alex Orji is getting reported on a lot because he happens to be in the spotlight a lot during the offseason. And if you don't think he is one of the leaders in the clubhouse right now to be the starting quarterback, then you're either in denial or you're not paying attention. One of the ways we know this is because he was one of the starting quarterbacks during Michigan's spring game. He was one of the quarterbacks we got to talk to during the post-game press conference after the spring game. Alex Orji was the headline quarterback at a football quarterback camp that featured the starting quarterback for Michigan State and Alex Orji. It wasn't Davis Warren. It wasn't Jack Tuttle. It wasn't Jaden Denegal. It was Alex Orji. Alex Orji was also at a recent NIL event that I was at for Wolverine Boots. He was the only quarterback that was there. I'm not saying that all of these little things are indications that he's for sure going to be the starting quarterback this fall, but Alex Orji has been in the spotlight and been involved in far more things than any of these other quarterbacks have. To me, that signals it's not just a media thing. The reason why the media is constantly talking about Alex Orji is because Alex Orji is constantly at these events. He's the guy that's there. He's the one representing the quarterback room. So I don't think it's a media thing. I think there's a general sense that Alex Orji has stepped into a leadership role on this team. Now, what that means as far as how productive is he going to be on Saturdays, I'm not exactly sure. And we'll have to see what the battle looks like in the fall. But Trent, to your point, and to the article that you wrote and to the many articles I put out about this, his leadership is undeniable. The way that he communicates about his place on the team, what he's working on, the way that he conveys that to me, there is zero doubt that he is one of the leaders on this team and that he is going to play a significant role this fall. I think we're all, there's not a person sitting here or in the media elsewhere that's saying Alex Orji is this or Alex Orji is that, other than he has proven himself as a leader. We'll see what that means from a talent perspective and what it means for the battle this fall. Trent, what do you want to say when it comes to not just Alex Orji as a quarterback, but what you see, because you see it too from the response you get from fans when we talk about Alex Orji. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of the Michigan media since 2020, and just being around kind of a small sample size, typically when Michigan provides a player to the media as much as it has with Alex Orji, there's a reason for it. They don't just throw out any random player to go to media availabilities or to be at NIL events. They don't do that. Historically, Michigan has never done that. It's that they send players that's more than likely going to have a large size role on the team in the following season. And Alex Orji is literally at everything, which again, yet I'm not force feeding Alex Orji content. Chris isn't, Matt's not either, but he's literally everywhere. And when he's everywhere, media is going to constantly ask him questions. They're going to be asking him, what have you improved on? What are you working on? He's going to give answers. And besides like the little answers he's given, he is more of a team player for a guy that's trying to become the starting quarterback. A lot of times with these younger players, you hear about the I'm doing this, I'm doing this.
Right.
Alex Orji is it's all about the team. Like he talked about how it's a blessing to be able to wear the winged helmet, and you should be grateful for that. And you're blessed for that every single day. And it's not like he doesn't give any answers of, I'm really good at doing this and I'm going to be the starting quarterback because of this. Like he's not cocky. He's humble. Yeah. Does that mean it's going to translate him to being the next great quarterback at Michigan? I have no idea. But the reason why he's being reported so much is because he's at everything, and it's the way he comes across to the media.
Yeah. And maybe that's something that you can only see and really only get a sense of if you've spent time around him. But I just don't understand this desire for Michigan football fans to shit on a guy who has the perfect mindset for somebody you want in that position. Alex Orji has come out and said, look, I don't care if I'm first string, second string, third string, eighth string. I'm going to do whatever I can do to help this team win in the fall. And I take him at his word when he says that. He's committed to whatever role he's going to play, and he's going to play it as good as he can possibly play it to help Michigan win football games. Isn't that what you want in that position? Why are we going after this guy? And already, listen, I'm willing to admit, we don't know what Alex Orji is going to be on fall Saturdays because we've seen one career pass out of him. I get that. He might be everything Michigan needs at quarterback to be able to get to where they want to be, and he might not. I'm not sure. And the reality is nobody out there listening to this or in the comment section, nobody out there knows either. But if you've already determined that Alex Orji isn't capable of being the guy Michigan needs at quarterback, you're part of the problem, not the media. Nobody force feeding you anything. You've already made up your mind that this guy isn't capable without even seeing him go out and perform on Saturdays. So I take issue with that. And I just think when it comes to the quarterback battle, I want to be clear. Again, we report on Alex Orji as often as we do is because we see Alex Orji very often. He is the guy that Michigan puts out in front of the crowd to talk to. He's the guy at the NIL events. He's the guy at the football camps. Alex Orji has been pretty available over the summer. And to Trent's point, typically the reason that happens is because this guy is a leader on the team. I know he's a leader because I've listened to the way he talks and the way he kind of, positions who he is on this team. I have no doubts that Alex Orji is one of the top leaders on this team, and I'm certainly not going to slam him for it or try to degrade what meaning he has on this team because we haven't seen it on the field. I agree. Let's let it play out on the field. Let's see what happens in the fall. But why would we not explain to you how incredible this guy is, the leadership role he's grown into? Why wouldn't we share that with you? And as a fan, why would you take issue with that? And again, if you're somebody out there who's already determined Alex Orji, he's Denard Robinson, or he can't do this, he can't throw, he better learn that, he better learn that. Why are we taking such a negative stance with a guy who has such a great attitude in his position? I don't understand that.
Yeah. I understand the fans. They're not being overly optimistic because it's so difficult to replace a quarterback like JJ McCarthy. He could make every throw. He did everything. He was a great team leader. But in college football, these guys come and go, and you got to have somebody ready to come in. And I mean, Michigan's kind of at a point where you don't know who it's going to be at quarterback. Nobody's really done a whole lot in that room to make fans like, this is our guy. Like, there's nobody there that's done that. So, but that's where you have to trust the Michigan coaching staff and hope for the best. I mean, Michigan's obviously not a program that relies on its quarterback. It relies on other things. It's defense, it's running ability. But yeah, I mean, all they got to do is get decent quarterback play, and I think Michigan will be fine. But obviously that's a different talking point for a different day. It's just the fact that I understand why fans have their questions, but it's just kind of it's just going in a bad direction with Alex Orji. It's
fine to question it, but like I said, to determine he's not capable of being the guy right now in July, how? Like, we all admit we haven't seen enough from him, and I don't know. I don't know that he's going to be good enough to be QB1 this fall. I think that's what's going to happen, just based on what I've seen from him, what I know he's able to do with his legs, and what I think he can potentially do with his arm. But I'm not out here saying that Alex Orji is the undisputed quarterback one. But what I will say, though, is if you are that critical of Alex Orji or the quarterback situation in general, to me, that also says that you don't have a lot of faith in the coaching staff. The guys that have put so much trust into them that they didn't feel the need to go to the transfer portal and try to bring somebody in. We know that Michigan has no problem with going out and getting transfer portal guys. If they feel like there's a deficiency somewhere on the roster, they will go to the transfer portal and they'll supplement that. They didn't do that with the quarterback situation. So whether or not it's Alex Orji or Davis Warren or Jack Tuttle or Jaden Denegal or Jaden Davis, they like what they have in that room enough, trust it enough to where they think they can be effective in the fall. And to Trent's point, and I've said this a number of times, Michigan's offense doesn't need a superstar at the quarterback position. During the 2021 season, Cade McNamara threw 15 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. I think he averaged like 15 completions per game and 24 attempts or something like that. It wasn't like they were leaning heavily on the quarterback. And one of the biggest knocks on JJ McCarthy, even though we knew he was incredible, was that he really didn't do much at the University of Michigan because they didn't utilize him enough. So we already know that Michigan's offense isn't dependent heavily on the quarterback. Whoever the guy is, whether it's Orji or Tuttle or Denegal or whoever it's going to be, they just need that guy to be able to be a game manager. And I know that sounds like a negative thing. Troy just said it at the same exact time I said it. This term game manager has like this negative connotation that comes along with it. But that's all Michigan needs from the quarterback position in 2024. They have an incredible backfield that is extremely deep with Donovan Edwards and Khalil Mullings and Benjamin Hall and Cole Cabana and Tavi Dunlap. They can rotate at the running back position all day long and pummel teams offensively for an entire afternoon. I think that offensive line is going to be incredible. I love what they have at the wide receiver position. I think those are the types of guys that Michigan has succeeded with over the last 3 years. I don't think they need that big body guy, although I wouldn't be angry if they had it. But the overall point is, if you are a quarterback at the University of Michigan, you don't got to be a superstar. You just got to manage the game, move the ball through the air when needed, and otherwise avoid making costly turnovers. And if they can get that out of one of their 5 options, they're going to be just fine. And I think CJ said it. Yeah. Alex Orji is getting the Lamar Jackson treatment for some odd reason. Like, he's not really a quarterback. Like, why? Why are you all of a sudden deciding that? I mean, are we saying that Jack Tuttle is the quarterback? Because this guy's been in college football, and I don't want to disparage him, but he's going into his 7th year yet and has yet to establish himself as a starter. This is the guy that we think is going to be the guy. What about Davis Warren? Davis Warren has gotten some reps, far more reps, I think, to throw the ball during his time at Michigan, and the numbers haven't looked good on fall Saturdays. They look great in the spring game, but it hasn't looked good on fall Saturdays. So I just think we need to be careful when it comes to Alex Orji. Once again, I know I've been rambling on about this for a while as we're, approaching 41 minutes, but I think it's a bad look for a Michigan football fan to sit back and just determine that Alex Orji isn't what Michigan needs at quarterback. I'm telling you, this guy is a leader. This guy has grown tremendously during his time at the University of Michigan. He is the exact type of guy you want in Michigan's locker room. We'll see what it means in terms of the quarterback battle and what it looks like on Saturdays. But don't look like a jackass and disparage this guy and determine in July what he is or isn't capable of. I agree. Let's see it play out on the field. But every time I'm around Alex Orji, every time I see him at an event, every time I listen to him speak, I'm going to make sure I put up an article about how impressive he is, because I think he's put in a lot of work to be in the spot he's in right now. And I think that's going to translate pretty well in the fall. What that role looks like, I'm not sure, but we saw what it looked like last year, and he came in and was very serviceable for J.J. McCarthy, did a lot of damage with his legs. He is going to play a role in this offense this season. It's just a matter of how big is that role going to be. Is he the undisputed QB1, or is it certain packages for Alex Orji like we saw last season?
The last thing I want to add to it is something I've been saying for quite some time. Right now, if going into it, I'm going to say Alex Orji is the starting quarterback. Obviously, fall camp hasn't been here. We don't know how he's going to look against Jack Tuttle and Davis Warren and Denegal and Jaden Davis. But again, if he can just do what Cade McNamara did in 2021, I think the Michigan fans that are hating on him right now, they're going to be the same ones in December saying how much they like Alex Orji and how they're happy that Orji has another couple seasons left at Michigan.
Listen, I'm not letting any of them off the hook, Trent. I told you this about a week back. If Alex Orji goes out and does what I think he can do, I am going to be such an asshole to a lot of people on social media who have spent weeks and weeks telling me what this guy isn't. I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong this fall. And look, if that happens, Michigan's going to be better off because of it. If he does struggle through the air, if Michigan, if things go a different direction, I've already said it multiple times, he is going to play a role in this offense. And so I would just say to those Michigan fans, like, have a little more respect for a guy who's stuck with the program, who didn't transfer out, and who's told you flat out he doesn't, first string, second string, third string, eighth string, I'm going to do whatever I can do to help this team win in the fall. That's who you want on your roster. Especially in today's college football. You cannot have enough of those guys. And having those guys is what's led Michigan to the level of success they've had over the last 3 years. So damn it, put some respect on that man's name. I'm tired of the Alex Orji slander. We've talked about this multiple times on the podcast. If you're one of those fans who routinely hops in the comments every time you see something Alex Orji related, just so you can shit on it, just know that you're on my list, and I plan on coming for you during the fall.
Yeah, and just to finish off my point, if he can just do what Cade McNamara did in 2021 with his arm, I think so many people forget that the dude is literally a dual threat quarterback, and we've seen what he can do with his legs, which is going to make Michigan's offense that much better. If you can pass for what Cade did, I don't know how many yards Cade McNamara threw in 2021, but if he can throw for that, throw 15 touchdowns, run for another 800 yards, like Michigan's offense will be just fine because you have that dual threat at quarterback.
All right, you ready for Cade McNamara's numbers in 2021? He was 210 of 327. He had 64% completion percentage. He threw for 2,576 yards. 2,576 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Somebody said it in the comments. Where is it? I'll pull it up if I can see it. Where is it? Can't find it. Damn it. I lost it. Here it is right here. Justin from the YouTube page. I refuse to believe Orji can't do as much or more than Cade did. Are you kidding me? 64% completion, 2,500 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. I think Alex Orji is capable of doing far more than that. And when Cade McNamara did that, Michigan won a Big Ten championship, beat Ohio State. So again, to me, Cade McNamara is the perfect example. He was a game manager. He wasn't prolific through the air, but he played his role well, good enough for Michigan to be able to win at a high level and lean on the other guys that could get them to where they wanted to be. Michigan had an elite defense that year. Michigan has an elite defense in 2024. Michigan had a great backfield in 2021. They've got that in 2024. Look at the wide receiver group in 2021 and tell me it's not very similar to what Michigan has going into this season. All things are equal. And if you ask me, we talked about this on the show before, but if you said right now, straight up, Cade McNamara is on the table, Alex Orji's on the table, you can trade if you want. Am I going to take Cade McNamara over Alex Orji? My answer is an emphatic no. Absolutely not. Alex Orji is a team guy, not a me guy. He's got the physical tools necessary to be able to be really good at the position. I'm very excited to see what he does in this role during the fall. And I'm with you, Trent. I think he's going to be QB1. I wish him best of luck. But look, if it doesn't go the way we think it's going to go, then Michigan's going to have a decision to make. And then you're deciding between guys like Jack Tuttle, Jaden Denegal, Davis Warren, all guys who are pretty unproven at this point as well. So let's pump the brakes on the Alex Orji hate because he might be everything Michigan needs at the quarterback position. Trent, anything you want to say before we hop off of that topic? Because damn, we spent a lot of time on that.
The only thing I want to say is if Alex Orji is like anything that he is on College Football 25, Michigan fans will be happy.
Dude, that's really the deciding factor. He's good on the game, so he's going to be good in real life. That's all I need to give me the confidence moving forward. We got a couple more topics that we want to talk about before we get out of here. This week, Trent and I, we're going to be heading down on Thursday for Big 10 Media Days. I'm excited, dude. I love Big 10 Media Days because to me, this really signals the beginning of the season. Michigan is about to start fall camp. I believe it starts on July 31st. And then we've got the weekly press conferences with the coaches and the players. And we're about a month away from kickoff of the season. Like college football is just about here, but it starts with Big 10 Media Days. We're going to get to talk to Sharon Moore. We're going to hear from Donovan Edwards. We're going to hear from Makari Page and obviously hear from Max Bredesen. When we get down to Indy on Thursday, what is it that you are hoping to learn, or what is it you're looking for from Big 10 Media Days? What do you want to learn about this team?
A couple of things. I mean, obviously, you want to hear a little bit about the quarterback competition. Obviously, Sharon Moore is not going to tell us who's starting game 1 against Fresno State, but you want to kind of hear a little bit about what his thinking is, what they're good at, like maybe who's leading the pack right now, and then defensively. I'm really interested in the secondary. You don't have Rod Moore for the foreseeable future. So who's starting next to Makari Page? And then that nickel spot. I fully believe that it's between Jaden McBurrows and Zeke Berry. And I'm really interested to ask Makari Page what he's seeing between those two. And obviously you want to know what you're getting out of all the transfers that came in. Like what do you see in Amir Hall and Mangum from Michigan State and Wesley Walker? You want to hear what the coaching staff, Sharon Moore and Makari Page is saying about these guys and kind of give the Michigan fans a little bit of an insight as to what these guys are seeing.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of that, I listed off the guys, Donovan Edwards, Makari Page, Max Bredesen. Surprised by that list, or are those guys that you would have expected?
I mean, it's the Michigan mantra of sending seniors to Big 10 Media Days. I mean, obviously you expect to see Dono there. He's one of the more vocal guys on the whole team. Makari Page was a little bit of a surprise just because he's very reserved. You don't hear much from Makari Page. When he is on the podium, he gives answers, but he just doesn't usually go overboard on his answers.
A little bit quieter.
Yeah, he's quiet. He's reserved. And then Max Bredesen, I honestly can't remember a time seeing Max Bredesen come out after a football game and sit at the podium and talk to media. So it'll be kind of nice seeing him there just to get that interaction with him.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's three guys that I expect to be captains this fall. There's no doubt about it. I think the only surprise that I had, I think you can make a strong case for all the guys that are there. Obviously, Sharon Moore decided to send them to Indy for a reason. Was a little bit surprised Rod Moore isn't going to be down in Indy. I know that he's injured, but and again, there might be a scheduling conflict. I'm not sure what's going on, but I think having Rod Moore be there as a leader on this team, because he's another guy that I think is going to be a captain, a surefire captain this fall. We've heard that he's taken on more of a coaching role as he's rehabbing with his injury. It would have been very nice to talk to Rod Moore just about what this experience is like and kind of what his mindset is going into this season. But again, when you got an injured guy and he's rehabbing through it, how many questions is he going to field about the injury? Do you think you're coming back? What's the timetable for return? Yada, yada, yada. But he's a guy that's interesting because he means so much to the defense that, it can't be easy. He could have gone pro, right? Decided to come back for another season. And then, we've seen things like this happen, unfortunately. So, man, that's got to be a not an easy time of year for a guy like Rod Moore, who should be, getting ready for the season. I saw they were going through their team photo shoots today. I just think that's got to be a big challenge for him. But as far as the guys that are there, yeah, they all deserve to be there. Talk about Sharon Moore a little bit, what we're hoping to learn. For me, it goes back to the quarterback situation, and I'm not going to go down another Alex Orji rant, but Trent, I talked to you about this before we went live. The last time Michigan had a quarterback battle, Jim Harbaugh decided to take an interesting approach into how he was going to settle it, right? He allowed the battle to go into the first 2 weeks of the season when it was between Cade McNamara, who was a junior, and JJ McCarthy as a sophomore. Let those two guys battle it out during the first 2 weeks of the season. Does Sharon Moore take that kind of approach going into this year, or is he committed to having this is going to be my QB1, decide on that in the fall and then roll into the season and see what happens? And I think that if the schedule looked different, you might see Michigan go that route, right? But you've got Texas week 2 on that schedule. To me personally, I think Sharon Moore is going to opt to decide on the starting quarterback during fall camp. But Trent, I want to ask you about that. It was a little bit strange to watch a quarterback battle go out into the first 2 weeks of the season. And it wasn't like it was just sort of implied that it was going to happen. Jim Harbaugh flat out came out and said, Cade McNamara is going to get game 1. JJ McCarthy is going to get game 2. And then that was how the battle played out. Do you see any scenario where that happens this fall, or do you think Sharon Moore is going to make the call during fall camp?
I mean, I think it helps when Jim Harbaugh can make that decision when you're playing, was it UConn and then Hawaii? I know JJ played Hawaii, but I don't remember that first game. I think it was UConn. Either way, it was two teams that Michigan was going to thump, no matter if it was Cade McNamara, JJ McCarthy, or the fifth string quarterback. Like, Michigan was going to win those games handily. You're talking about a completely different circumstance here with Sharon Moore. You got a Fresno State team that's a tough team. They've won nine or more games the past 4 seasons, and then you have Texas. Sharon Moore is not going to go into it saying, okay, Jack Tuttle, you've got game 2. Alex Orji, you've got game 1. Whoever performs better is going to start game 3. Like, you don't have that. You don't have that.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with CJ here. I mean, if he's not going to announce it during fall camp, I think that you're going to see Alex Orji and Jack Tuttle, or Alex Orji and Davis Warren, or whoever it's going to be. They're going to split reps game 1 against Fresno State. And then whoever looks better gets game 2 against Texas.
Yeah, but what if one guy looks really, really good against Fresno State? I mean, you're still going to pull him and put another guy in to see what he can do? Like, if Alex Orji starts week 1 against Fresno State and he comes out and he performs very, very well, are you going to pull him and put in Jack Tuttle just to see what he can do?
I mean, I wouldn't, but if Sharon Moore goes into it saying, here's what we're doing, he tells the media, he tells the team, here's what we're doing, and Michigan has a solid lead over Fresno State, I absolutely think he'll probably follow through on what he intended to do by throwing in that other quarterback into the fire and seeing what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, unless the starter plays poorly against Fresno State, I think whoever starts against Fresno State is going to start against Texas. I mean, that's just how I see it playing out. But to me, that's the biggest thing I want to learn from Big Ten Media Days, and in particular from Sharon Moore, is how do you plan to handle this battle? Are you going to make the announcement like to your point, he's not going to tell us who the guy is, but we heard Kurt Campbell talk about this in the spring. And the way that they were handling the quarterback battle at that point was they were going to roll out the balls, and it was based on seniority and kind of like what your last name was. And, the certain letters go in certain places. Well, now we've had a spring session to go through. How are are the quarterbacks still on equal footing at this point? And if so, what is it you're looking for? When do you plan on making a decision? Is this something you want to decide on during the fall? Or is it something you're willing to play out during fall camp? So again, that Michigan's day is on Thursday. We've got our other guy, Matt. He's going to be down there for the first 2 days, kind of gathering content and helping us out. And then Trent and I are going to make our way down there Thursday and cover Michigan. So I believe that starts at 11 a.m. on Thursday and goes all the way through like 5 o'clock. So going to be plenty of Michigan content this week that we're going to be able to provide. And again, Big Ten Media Days is like signifies to me the start of the season, and when we're I know you guys love the off-season chatter and how much we rank Big Ten helmets and who's got the best uniform and all these different lists that come out, but we're done with the bullshit. We're tired of it. We want to cover actual things that are happening, actual news, and Big Ten Media Days is certainly going to give us that. Trent, anything else you want to touch on for the event before we head on to the last and to me the most important topic of the show?
No, I mean, I agree with you when you say, when it's Big Ten Media Days time, like, yeah, the season's right around the corner, kind of gets you going for the college football season. Like, I've been going through so many of my own personal rankings, just trying to come up with content. And it's going to be very, very nice actually having actual content to cover. And we're going to have a lot of it to cover too. So it'll be nice.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Can't wait to get down there. Can't wait to cover. I can't wait to hear what these guys have to say. I mean, there is, we know all too well, there is the general consensus among people in the sports world is that Michigan is going to stumble this year. I think most of the polls that I see come out has Michigan finishing like fourth in the Big Ten, behind Ohio State, behind Oregon, behind Penn State. And so the reigning national champions are not getting a lot of love. We talked about that on the previous show. Like, I don't know that I can remember anything quite like this, where a team that went out and has been as successful as Michigan has been over the last 3 years, won a national championship this past season, is just not getting much respect from local and national media, if we're being honest. Yeah. I'm sure that's, look, I get that these guys don't pay attention to what's being said, but yeah, they do. I mean, they have social media, they read shit, they know what the narrative is. It has to play somewhat of a factor in what their motivation is heading into the season. So we'll talk about all of that this week, and especially when we get down to Indy on Thursday. But I want to move on to our final topic of the evening, as we're here at 57 minutes, and do something that it seems like we do on most shows.
This is a tough team right here.
Talk about Ohio State fans. I put out an article today. It was from a podcast back in 2021. And if you didn't read the article, shame on you. But in the article, there's the audio of, there's some sort of Ohio State podcast. I can't remember what the name of it is. But they were talking about Michigan following the 2021 season. And what they were saying is a lot of what we're hearing about Michigan now. And before we get to that, by the way, did you see the article I put out about the most annoying fan bases?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, did you see it? Scientific evidence has proven that Ohio State is one of the most annoying fan bases in all of college football. Now, unfortunately, Michigan was just behind them at the number 3 spot. Ohio State took number 1. Trent, I know you don't have the list in front of me. Any guess on who the most annoying fan base in all of college football is?
If I had to guess, it's probably one of the best teams in college football. So give me Alabama.
You would be correct. It's Alabama coming in at number 1. 22% of the people that voted Alabama fans as the most annoying college football. Let me just walk through some of the top teams here. So we've got Alabama number 1 at 22%, Ohio State number 2 at 14%. Michigan fans came in at number 3 with 9% of the vote. Notre Dame, 8% of the vote. Was not surprised to see Notre Dame. And I said this in the article, even though they really haven't done much on the field recently that is noteworthy. Ohio State fans are just elite at being annoying. And so I'm not surprised to see them come in at number 4 on the list. Texas, number 5 at 7%. At number 6, it was Florida and Miami splitting with 5%. Number 7, Florida State, USC, and Penn State all getting 4%. Number 8, Clemson and Georgia getting 3%. I was surprised to see Georgia so low on the list, given how successful that program has been. But they're at number 8 on the list. And then number 9, you get Oklahoma, Auburn, Colorado at 2%. Surprised to see Colorado so low, just given how much hype there is surrounding that program with Deion Sanders there. Any surprises on that list? Any team that jumped out? Surprised that Michigan took number 3.
I'm not, because you have all these voters. You have all of the Ohio State region voting for Michigan. You have all the Michigan region voting for Ohio State. The only thing that kind of surprises me, like you said, Georgia, they've been up there for a long time now. I mean, just almost as long as Alabama, it feels like, and they're that low. That's kind of shocking that they're not higher up, because when a team has success, most of the time the opposing fan bases, they absolutely hate the other fan. You know, if Georgia has success, Bama hates Georgia. They hate their fans. Georgia fans hate Alabama. So that's kind of surprising.
Matt Kirby says he's earned that ranking at number 3. He's doing his part to make sure he keeps Michigan near the top of the list. Tony Petrosky, always good to hear from you. Can't wait to see you this season. Yeah, man. I mean, look, there's no doubt that there's a correlation between success and people finding certain fan bases annoying, but it's one of the few areas that Ohio State can still beat Michigan in, and that's being extremely annoying. And look, there's no further evidence than all of the constant. I get that Michigan fans might be annoying because they brag and they talk about their team, and when you win a lot of championships, that just comes with the territory. But my goodness, Ohio State fans have become some of the whiniest fans that I have ever encountered. And this is another thing we've talked about. I find it to be amusing because Ohio State fans used to be really cocky, and I found them to be annoying, but it was like they were winning, so it was all justified. To see that fan base go from that to a fan base that lives on excuses and copes in different ways, like that fan base is just down bad. And so it's been interesting, enjoyable to see from my standpoint, but I can see how people view them as one of the most annoying fan bases in college football. But back to what I was saying before, I put out the article today. There's this sense for Michigan football going into 2024 that they can't win, right? I talked about the Big Ten poll. They're being picked behind Ohio State, behind Oregon, behind Penn State. And when you go back to 2021 and you listen to the narrative about Michigan football after that season, it sounds eerily familiar to what we're hearing now about the Michigan football team. Somebody on Twitter pulled up this gem from, again, a random podcast, a random Ohio State fan podcast. Can't remember the name of it. But here's what they were saying after Michigan beat Ohio State's ass in the Big House. Trent, you remember that was a glorious afternoon. The snow was falling. We got that famous Ojabo call from Gus Johnson. That was a magical day. Following that win by Michigan, here's what this Ohio State podcast had to say. Quote, when Aiden Hutchinson leaves, Michigan has nobody. We may beat Michigan by 75 next year because there's nobody on their freaking roster. Just being honest, literally everyone who was of any value to Michigan this year was like a 6th-year senior. Josh Ross, David Ojabo, Aiden Hutchinson, Daxton Hill. Saying Daxton Hill might be in his 7th year for all we know, end quote. So hold on a second. Here they are on their podcast saying, when Aiden Hutchinson leaves, Michigan has nobody. We may beat them by 75 next year. Trent, do you have any idea what happened the following year when the rivalry went back to Columbus?
No, can you enlighten me? I have no clue.
If I remember correctly, Michigan went into the horseshoe and whooped that ass, planted the Block M flag on the 50, and left with a 22-point win. So I feel like Ohio State fans are now developing this habit of saying Michigan's lost too much. all of Michigan's, I mean, again, saying that these guys were all 6-year seniors, nobody they listed off was a 6-year guy, by the way. Josh Ross was the most veteran of the group. He was in his 5th season. Daxton Hill, a guy that they said was in his 7th year, was in his 3rd year. He was a junior, by the way. David Ojabo, a guy that you claimed was a 6-year guy, he was also in his junior year. You weren't getting whooped by guys who were like at the university for 6, 7, 8 years. You were just getting bullied by a team that was better than you. And it seems like heading into this season, Trent, the narrative sounds the same. Michigan's lost way too much during the offseason. We might beat them by 75 points when they get to Columbus on November 30th. Is this now a pattern by Ohio State fans that we're just going to have to get used to year after year?
I mean, yeah, they're always going to have something new, whether it's who Michigan does or doesn't have, to the weather, to whatever they possibly could come up with. But outside of Ohio, hold on, let's go back to that podcast real quick. The thing they got right was that Michigan wouldn't have Aiden Hutchinson and Daxton Hill and David Ojabo and Josh Ross. They wouldn't have those guys the following year because to them, they were in their 7th season and they wouldn't have them anymore. But still, they didn't have them, and Michigan still won handily. So, like, yeah, they got that part correct.
Won by more, right? Or was it
yeah.
How much did they beat them by in 2021? It was like 15 or something.
It was more in 22.
Yeah, it was 22 points.
Yeah,
22 points in their own building. So, I mean, these guys have just developed a habit of being wrong. And overall, again, their fan base is ranked, again, science, one of the most annoying fan bases out there. After 2021, they were saying there's no way Michigan can win. They're losing too much. They've got no talent returning. And then what happened? The Wolverines went into their building and beat that ass again. Happened again in 2023. The day of reckoning is coming. Michigan can't do this. Now they don't have Connor Stalions, so they can't do that. Michigan didn't have Jim Harbaugh last year. I mean, whatever excuse they can come up with, whatever they can say to make themselves feel better, it's clear to me that Ohio State fans are going to do it. So as we close out the show here, now that we're at an hour and 6 minutes, I feel like we talk about this every time we go live. Yes, I obviously want Michigan to beat Ohio State for all the normal reasons you want Michigan to beat Ohio State. But this year in particular, with all of the offseason things that have happened, Michigan going through a transition period. You lose Jim Harbaugh. You lose a good chunk of the coaching staff. You lose significant contributors. I mean, the losses Michigan's had this offseason compared to what they lost in 2021, not even close. Michigan has lost a considerable amount of talent. Meanwhile, Ohio State on the other side, you've got Ryan Day back. They've added to the coaching staff. They've added big pieces through the transfer portal, and they've done well on the recruiting trail, primarily with a guy like Jeremiah Smith, who's expected to compete first year, be one of the best, one of the wide receivers in the Big Ten Conference. Like, I hate Ohio State. I'm not going to hate on that guy. I've seen some of the practice film come out, the way he's built physically, the highlight reels. I think he's going to be a problem in the Big Ten as a true freshman. And so everything is lining up for Ohio State to have a great year. But we saw that movie in 2021. We saw it in 2022. We saw it last year when Michigan was dealing with the Connor Stalions bullshit and things coming off the rails. And is Jim Harbaugh available? Is he not? Is he, is Michigan going to be, is the Big Ten going to close down their season? What's going to happen? And all the while, Michigan just kept winning. And while Ohio State was more talented on paper, Michigan was more talented on Saturdays. I think that's what's going to happen this fall, but I'm very eager to see it play out. And yes, like I said, I want to see Michigan beat Ohio State for all the reasons we typically want to see. But damn it, Trent, if Michigan goes into that building and beats them on November 30th, after everything that's happened this offseason, they might just go into hiding, right? You might just have to delete your social media.
No,
I don't want to hear
it won't happen.
I don't want to hear anything from an Ohio State fan again if you guys don't get it done on November 30th. And for anybody who thinks the day of reckoning is coming this time, just go back and watch the tape, watch the film. Was it because Michigan was so flashy? Was it because Michigan had all these high caliber weapons? Or did you just get bullied by guys who wanted it more, who were tougher mentally and physically? And there's still a lot of that remaining in Ann Arbor. So we'll see what happens November 30th. But this fan base, they're teetering. they're teetering. They're putting a lot of stock in what's going to happen this year. If Ryan Day doesn't deliver, might have to set fire to the whole thing.
I just want to see what the fan base would do and say about Ryan Day. If Michigan goes in there and wins for the 4th year in a row against Ohio State, that's all I want. I just want to hear what the fan base is going to say about their coach, who I mean gets the job done there. He wins, but right now he can't beat Michigan. So it would be a very interesting offseason for Ohio State if he doesn't beat Michigan. Agreed.
And again, the season's almost here. Expect Michigan to be good. Expect Ohio State to be good once again. And, with the new rules and the way the Big Ten has changed, no divisions. I mean, we could see multiple matchups between Michigan and Ohio State this year. Hell, could, regular season meeting in the conference championship, potentially running into each other once again in the college football playoff. So, dude, all of those changes, everything that this season is going to offer. This, again, we were talking about this before we went live, but I feel like there is more intrigue with this season than what I can remember, right? You have all the turnover at the University of Michigan. You've got a new head coach. You're trying to figure out life after J.J. McCarthy. You've got no divisions now. You've got 4 new teams that are part of the conference. You've got an expanded playoff. All of those things put together, I think, are going to make for one of the most memorable college football seasons that we've ever had, and can't wait to be able to cover it. Dude, it's such an honor to be able to do this professionally and be able to cover it. And again, it starts off this week, Thursday, when we meet up at Big 10 Media Days. And so that's all I've got for tonight. Trent, anything else you want to add or give to the people before we get out of here and go about our evening?
It's wild, man. We almost 1 month from just about 1 month away. We're going to be sitting at the big house watching Michigan take on Fresno State, and it's all going to be getting started here real soon.
In prime time, we're going to hear this.
Plenty of that.
You know what I mean? Just all the feels. I used to hate this song. Now I absolutely love it. You know what else I love? Getting on here Mondays, doing the show with you. Again, the comment section was phenomenal. Appreciate all you guys. We
Great
might
time.
go live again this week. We'll see what happens on Thursday. But again, we're going to be putting out content. Stay tuned. We've got some good things coming for you. Appreciate you as always. Take care.
Yes, sir. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Trent.